Hello again, world. This is Eric Carfino once again. I am putting up a second video because you all responded so well to my first video. It made me feel like you were actually interested in what I had to say. So we're going to continue talking about melodies today. I mentioned it in the first video, so we're going to talk about the Star-Spangled Banner. I'm going to mention a couple of things. First and foremost, the range of the song. I pointed that out at the beginning of the video. Basically, we have an entire scale of notes plus an extra 2 notes in this scale. So that'd be equivalent of right? So this is a pretty large range. This is what I would say the usual normal range for a song that is using all the tools at its disposal. Now, the song does eventually move up for its very high note, and the rocket's red glare, right? It goes all the way up to an octave plus 4 notes. So that's like the high point of the song, right? The highest note of the whole song, and really builds that excitement. So talking about the melody of this song, we're gonna use some vocabulary words. Sorry, we gotta do this if we're gonna really talk about it properly. We're gonna have words like dissonance, consonance, tension, release of the tension, and also motifs. So dissonance basically is whenever you hear 2 notes happening and they're fighting with each other. Now, this is not in and of itself a bad thing, but we just have to release that dissonance. We need to find a certain amount of consonants so that our ears can start to make sense of what's going on. So consonance is whenever we hear something that really works well together. We might call it constructive rather than destructive. Constructive would be like a perfect fifth, right? These notes work real well together. A lot of consonants between those 2 notes. So if consonance and dissonance is what happens when 2 notes are played together, tension is what happens whenever we move to new notes that want us to go someplace. Now, the first note in our scale is always the starting point. It's always the happiest, most stable, and least tense note. So in the key of D major, we have do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, right? Most specifically, ti, do. Ti wants to lead us to do, up to the first note again above the original. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. If we stop on ti, you're not going to be a happy camper. You're going to be expecting something. Gotta go somewhere. Right? So this is the whole point. All of our notes have like a pull. If it's not the first note, it's going to have some degree of tension. And that's what we need to understand when we write our melodies. So whenever it comes to the Star-Spangled Banner, there is kind of a lack of tension in most of the song. It is very consonant within itself. Whoa, say, can you see? That is nothing but a G major chord. And then we jump up to the 3rd of the chord. By the dawns, right? All notes of the chord. And then we move to this note. Lee. This is not a part of the scale. There's a lot of tension in this note. Lee. That note right there is very dissonant within the tonic chord, the very first chord. There's a lot of dissonance. Our ear really needs to go someplace to release that tension. So it resolves itself. Light by the dawn's early light. Now there's still a little bit of tension here, but we've released that extreme, copious amount of tension by moving that note up. That's where our ear was being pulled. So most of this song is all within that G major chord. There's a kind of a lack of tension, but the range and how we sing the song generally gives it that feeling of triumph, right? That we're trying to accomplish with this, entire national anthem, right? Whoa, say, can you see by the dawn's early light, right? Still in the G chord. What so proudly we hailed. This is also a dissonant note. It's not as bad as the first one, but it's still tense. It wants to go somewhere. It wants to go just like our last note. Lee lights, right? It still is injecting a little tension within this song that kind of is lacking tension. So as a case study, the Star Spangled Banner kind of teaches us a few things here. It's not that we have to be particularly inventive. We can, for the most part, use all the notes of just one chord and inject little bits of tension to create the interest that makes this melody so memorable. So once again, whoa, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming. And then we start all over again, right? So what the Star Spangled Banner teaches us is that very strategically, we can just use one or two notes within a pattern that, or a kind of a lack of patterns, to create the interest that we need to make a melody really have our drive and interest. So that's the Star Spangled Banner. So the next song that I want to talk about in contrast is the Violent Femmes' Blister in the Sun. That song is only 4 notes, or at least the catchy part that we're talking about, the melody that we're talking about. Do, re, mi, fa. Fa, the 4th note in the scale, wants to fall downwards. Mi, fa, mi, re, do, 4, 3, 2, 1, and we've released all of our tension. So what the Violent Femmes song does is basically uses that tension of the 4 and then kind of momentum, what we might call melodic inertia, melodic momentum, to fall back down onto our tonic, our first note. So when I'm a-walking, I strut my stuff, walking stuff, and I'm so strung out, right? The catchiness of this song is pretty much embodied by the fact that we have that little bit of tension and it's super singable, right? The range is tiny, so just about anybody could figure out how to sing along to this one. So there we are with basically 2 examples of how you can direct your melody. If it's a little boring, if you don't like it, maybe you haven't put enough tension into the melody. If it's a little too spastic and a little bit too all over the place, no patterns, maybe you haven't focused enough on what your underlying harmony is. You're not giving your ear what it wants to hear. And if you're doing that properly, you're going to be able to sustain the interest and keep that mystery. Keep saying, oh, where are we going with this? Ooh, I like where we turned with that. I love where the story is going. You throw those little twists and turns in there, and you keep that story going, right? It's just like watching a movie. And of course, why we use music in movies, right? So the next videos I would like to do, in particular, I would love to start talking about the lyrics and how we can start meshing the lyrics and the music together. So if that interests you, go ahead and like this video, leave a comment, tell me what you would like to hear about in the next video. I will keep making these as long as there's someone out there listening and watching. So thank you so much. My name is Eric, and I will talk to you another time.